It's the Jon Justice Show, and thank you so much for checking out another episode. Remember, you can listen to my weekly radio show Monday through Friday. That's why it's weekly. 6 until 9 a.m. on the Iheartraio app, KTLK, Minneapolis, and you can check it out daily on the podcast as well, Iheartradio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you go and listen to podcasts. I've gone down this New Jersey and across the country drone rabbit hole, and I am fascinated by this entire story. I have a clip I want to share with you in just a moment. We finally have an eyewitness account of somebody who's seen one of these specific drones up close in daylight. And it's a reporter from Newsmax, and I'll get to that here in just a moment. I want to talk a little bit about the phenomenon in the social sphere right now. And this is nothing new. We just have a couple of recent examples that we can go and point to when people suddenly become experts on a topic, or you have a major news story and everybody is talking about it and the angles that are taken. Let me start off with Luigi Mangione, the suspect who's now been charged in the murder of Brian Thompson, United Healthcare CEO. I'm not going to get into the atrocious views that people have in attempting to justify the murder of this CEO, except to say it's disgusting and it's a byproduct of this past election cycle. What we've seen in those that have been actually applauding the murder of this CEO and Luigi Mangione, assuming he is the shooter, and it looks like he is. We saw something similar in the assassination attempts against President Donald Trump, and if, heaven forbid, one of those individuals had been successful, you would have seen people making the same argument that it would have been justified in the way that they are attempting to justify the murdering of this CEO. It's gross and disgusting. There's no room for it. And this is what you get with a bunch of radical leftist Marxists who regard murder as a means of justice and a political end. No, what I want to talk about, though, specifically, now that I've ranted on that, is how people were rushing to and still are questioning the official account of what happened in the capture of Mangione, and that other sort of group of people who aren't buying into the official story relating to the background of this individual and what brought him to potentially go and murder the United Healthcare CEO. All of that is to say that, and I do the same thing too, we base so much of our commentary and speculation off of what we have watched on TV and in movies, and rarely do the two things actually line up, especially and more specifically in circumstances like what we're seeing with Luigi Mangione. And this is also applicable to the drone story, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But, you know, with Mangione, what it appears took place here is you have an individual who grew up in a wealthy household, had access to money and means, had a very successful college career, was set up well heading into, adulthood and into his adult life. He had everything going for him. Suffered this back injury, had this back surgery, and all of his friends have said that ever since then, he just completely changed. And that could be for a number of reasons. It could be the surgery itself on his spine. It could be the drugs that he was taking. Be that as it may, they say that he became quiet. He actually disconnected and disassociated himself with his friends, cut himself off from his friends, saying that he was having difficulties in life, including not being able to have sex with women. He just become a changed individual. And this is a young, attractive, healthy, fit individual who had everything going in his life. But now this was being stripped from him because of this back surgery. His Goodreads profile shows that he was reading books about the healthcare industry, negative books about the healthcare industry, and about back pain and dealing with things of this nature. And it feels like this person went through a traumatic change in his life that brought him to the point where he decided to enact his own version of justice in murdering, allegedly, if it is him, this United Healthcare CEO. People point to how he got caught, how he left behind a backpack filled with Monopoly money, how he scrolled the name of a book that was critical of healthcare on the shell casings, and critiquing, that's probably the wrong word, but skeptical of him carrying around the murder weapon, having a manifesto on him, being in a McDonald's, just, sort of going about his daily business, and how none of this makes sense to them. And this is where the movies and television collides with reality, because there's a whole host of rational reasons why Luigi Mangione would have acted the way that he did. The mere fact that he decided to kill somebody in cold blood and take this step tells you that something was incredibly off with him. He wasn't thinking rationally anymore, to the point where he no longer regarded human life or his own personal safety, probably thinking he, may get caught. Maybe he didn't think he was going to get caught. That being said, there could have been a host of reasons why he was sitting in that McDonald's with those items in his backpack. Maybe he didn't want to throw them away because he was afraid somebody would go and find them. Maybe subconsciously he wanted to go and get caught. In real life, you don't have murder for hire individuals like you see in the movies and television shows. You don't have assassins like that. That's not to say they haven't existed. That is to say that's not the norm by any stretch. And if you look at police reports of the most prolific murderers, the most high-profile serial killers and assassins, they never fit that mold of what you see on TV. But typically we go and we base our reality when we're examining situations like that on what we think is reality in TV and movies, and it simply isn't the case. Luigi was more than likely just a really disturbed man who went through a traumatic experience in his life. It's absolutely no excuse for the heinous crime that he allegedly committed, and he'll have to pay the price for that now. But sometimes the truth isn't as flashy as what we see in TV and in movies. Now, that brings me to the drone story, which I find just utterly fascinating, because I find myself going through something similar to this in my rampant speculation over what is actually taking place with these drones in New Jersey and across the country. And I think you have a couple of different things occurring. You may have a connection between the New Jersey situation and what's taking place in other parts of the country, but at the same time, they are separated at the moment. So we've had an issue of your Chinese spy balloons. We have had drone incursions in other parts of the country. As a matter of fact, a Chinese resident here in the United States was arrested just at the end of November for flying a drone and taking pictures of Vandenberg Space Force Base. He was caught getting on a plane heading back to China. So you have these circumstances. We have drones that have been buzzing our military installations across the country and some of our nuclear facilities. These may be tied to what's going on in New Jersey. They may not. Also in New Jersey, you have a couple things happening here. First off, you have actual drones that are being flown over residences in New Jersey in densely populated areas. And as I'll play here, and you'll see in the video, this story from Newsmax, somebody's actually seen one in real life. Now, you also have drone owners that can go and buy these at, a hobby store, Target, Walmart. They become incredibly popular, who have been sending up their own drones to try to track these drones, which apparently have caused their batteries to drain and drop out of the sky. When they've sent up helicopters to go and examine these drones, they've flown away. Footage of these things happening is contributing to the reaction and videos online. So you have some videos online that are actual drones, these big SUV-sized ones, and then you have drones that are being flown by individuals that are being mistaken for the ones that nobody knows what they are. And then you have airliners that are flying by, people are catching videos of that they're mistaking for drones. You have the helicopters as well. So you have a real instance of what officials have said are dozens of drones coming in off the coast. Some are saying as many as 150 of these drones, and this could be, again, convoluted because of all the different non-mystery drone footage that's been filmed. What I know at this point is I don't trust the federal government and what they're saying right now in the Pentagon. We have prominent members of Congress who said that there's an Iranian mothership that's flying these drones. The Pentagon has pushed back on that, and reputable sources like OSINT Defender on X, who say no, they know of those crafts, those ships that contain these Iranian drone motherships, but they also have been tracking them, and they have been shown that they're still parked overseas in Iran. So you have conflicting reports here. What's mind-blowing to me is that we simply haven't gotten to the bottom of these drones and what they're doing. And right now it's reaching a fever pitch. My guess is sometime before the weekend, and I'm recording this on Wednesday early afternoon, we'll find out what's going on. It is stunning to me that we haven't found out what's going on yet. That being said, I'm also going off the assumption that everything that I've seen in movies and TVs is true. And sometimes going and figuring out mysteries like that just simply isn't that easy. If they are evading the public and they're not flying a lot in daylight, and you have individuals that are capturing these in the sky, but they're turning off, like some officials in New Jersey have been saying, once they get spotted, the lights go off and they fly away, then yeah, maybe it is difficult to track these. There is some speculation they're not showing up on radar. I imagine that local law enforcement is worried about sending up their helicopters, considering that these drones may be almost the size of them as well. I believe the federal government knows what's going on. They're simply not telling us, which gives me one or two conclusions here. One, it is the federal government, and they're doing something that they don't want us to be made aware of. There have been some reports, and I don't put a lot of stock in this, that these drones are military drones, and they're actually going and tracking the potential threats of biological and nuclear weapons coming into the country, and there's some sort of threat that we as the public haven't been made aware of yet. Or they know that this is a foreign entity that is flying these drones into and over American soil, and that would be an act of war, and they don't want to go and let the public know because they don't want Congress to know, because they know there are members of Congress that'll be like, why aren't you doing anything about this? This brings me to Newsmax and the first sighting in daylight of these specific drones that are causing all these problems. Listen and watch this.
Joining us now is my friend Evan Cutler, who witnessed one of the drones up close in New Jersey. He took some pictures as well. Evan, good to see you. So Evan described to me what he saw, and I said, you got to come on the show to talk about it. Evan, what did you see?
Well, I saw a drone. If it was a drone, who knows what it was, but it was not the drone you see people fly. There's the picture. It was the size of a school bus. Literally the size of my two-car garage. Well, I have a one-car garage, the size of a two-car garage.
And what happened when you saw it or you started taking pictures, et cetera?
Well, to back up a little bit, I'm coming home from On Patrol Live. It's 12:30 at night, and I get into Montclair, New Jersey, and I see the full moon. And I'm like, well, it can't be a full moon because the full moon was 2 weeks ago. All of a sudden, it's getting closer and closer. And then first, I think it's a plane, then a helicopter. Then it's hovering right over the woods as you're entering Montclair. And it's a drone literally 40 feet wide by 40 feet wide, hovering right over the woods. I pull over, get out of my car, forget about the phone. I'm just like looking at this thing, wondering what the heck it is. Then I said, oh, I should take a picture. I grab my phone, starts, the second it like notices I'm out there, it just starts heading south. Grab the picture. The picture looks like a dot. It looks like, at the very most, like a Plan 9 from outer space flying saucer. But when I got a good close look at it, when it was only about 100 feet off the ground, maybe 150 feet off the ground, it looked like a drone on steroids, like literally a drone the size of a garage.
And you reported it to the authorities?
I got home. The first thing I did is I Googled. I went on X. I went on Instagram. I like, is this a thing? And I saw nothing except one little news report from like Morris County Patch about some drones making noise and keeping people up at night. Nothing. Then, so the next morning I called the FAA, I called the FBI, and still to this day, I've not gotten a response from either of them.
Well, it's not surprising considering we just saw them in front of a House committee saying they don't know what's going on. But,
the one thing I got to say, though, is if for people like me who do see something that's unidentified, there's very little recourse. I Googled, what do you do when you see a UFO? There's nothing. I think that's why a lot of times these things go unreported. You have nowhere to go. And I'm a seasoned journalist. I know, I did some digging. I found out who to call. And to this day, it's, I've gotten no response.
It's weird that it's just happening in this one area of New Jersey. Maybe they're just monitoring you, Evan,
That was my first thought. And, and I do have my aluminum foil here if I do want to make a hat. That was what some people at Patrol Live suggested. But, as ridiculous as everything sounds, I do have a teeny bit of credibility. I'm the president of the Montclair Bird Club. I'm used to looking at things in the sky. I've been a bird watcher since 4th grade. I spend my weekends at the Montclair Hawk Watch. I look at things in the sky. I know that's one of the things I'm good at.
Yeah, you're good at many things, Evan. Don't sell yourself short. Evan Cutler, thank you very much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. See you this weekend.
See you, Dan. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven...
Now, as I mentioned, I'm convinced now that this has reached sort of fever pitch. You're going to have enough eyes on the sky and enough people watching and enough members of Congress calling this into question that we'll find out pretty soon what's going on with these drones. I'll end on this today. Be sure you subscribe to the podcast. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. You can email me, thejonjustice@gmail.com, thejonjustice, Jon, @gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. But what we're dealing with right now, until we find out what this is, I think it's really good for society. Because whether we like it or not, it's actually helping us collectively sort of work on our critical thinking skills. And I think that's a good thing. We've become too separated in our society. We need to get out more and be together more as a society in public spaces. I was doing a story earlier this week about the potential of malls coming back. I think that would be amazing. Our sporting events are one of our few, and concerts are one of our few public spaces where we can get together despite our political differences and enjoy something and not have to get into politics, but going out to restaurants as well. But these moments when the public is captivated by something and it's not having to do with anything that's really politically divisive yet. This will be politicized once we get to the bottom of what's going on. But for the moment, we're all collectively speculating on what this is, and I think that's a good thing. When we find out what it is, it's going to turn into the typical political, divisive nature of what we do because everything gets politicized these days. But for the moment, space aliens, Iranian, Chinese, our own U.S. government, what do you think? Email me, thejonjustice@gmail.com. Thank you so much for checking out the show. Remember, you can listen to my weekly radio show on Iheartraio, live 6 until 9 a.m. Central Time. Have yourself a great day. God bless. Bye.